Get away from my son, Tyler. Now. My voice was steady, but my hands were shaking. The boy in front of me, cocky, cruel, everything I'd tried to protect Danny from, just smirked. Or what? You gonna sue me? My dad's a lawyer. He eats people like you for breakfast. And that's when I saw it. The steel gray eyes. The sharp jawline. The exact same smug certainty that the world would bend to his will. My stomach dropped. What's your father's name? I asked, my voice quieter than I intended. Brandon Brennan. Partner at Brennan, Foster, and Associates. The ground disappeared beneath my feet. Brandon Brennan. The man who'd destroyed my life 15 years ago. The man whose son was now standing in front of me, tormenting my son, his own half-brother, and neither of them had any idea. But when Tyler's father finally saw Danny's tattoos, those 3 small black dots on his chest, his face went completely white. Because he recognized something no stranger should ever recognize, and that's when everything I'd buried for 15 years came crashing into the light. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Voice of Auntie Katie. If you're new here, welcome to our family. If you've been with me on this journey, thank you. Your support means more to me than words can express. Every like, every comment, every share, you're not just watching stories, you're helping me create a community where truth matters and voices are heard. Before we dive into today's story, I want to take a moment to pray for you. Close your eyes if you can, or just listen while you're driving or cooking or whatever you're doing. Heavenly Father, I lift up every single person watching this right now. Whatever battle they're facing, whether it's financial struggle, family problems, health challenges, or just the weight of trying to survive another day, I pray you give them strength. Give them courage. Remind them that they are not alone, that they are seen, that they are loved. Protect their children, their homes, their peace of mind. And when they feel like giving up, send them a sign that better days are coming. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, let me tell you about Rachel Foster. And I warn you, this story will make you angry, it will break your heart, and it will make you stand up and cheer. Because sometimes, justice takes 15 years. But when it finally comes, it comes hard. My name is Rachel Foster, and I'm 37 years old. I live in Portland, Oregon, in a modest 2-bedroom apartment that smells like coffee and acrylic paint. The paint smell comes from my son, Danny, who's 14 and spends most of his free time sketching in worn notebooks covered in band stickers. Danny is everything to me. Dark hair that falls into his green eyes, tall and lean like his father, though he doesn't know that yet. Quiet, thoughtful, the kind of kid who notices when the neighbor's cat is limping or when I've had a bad day at work. That he's also a cancer survivor. When Danny was 7 years old, he was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. For 18 months, our lives became hospital rooms and chemo treatments and nights where I held him while he vomited everything he tried to eat that day. But he fought. God, he fought with everything in his small body. The radiation treatment required precise positioning. To make sure the beams hit exactly the right spots every single time, they tattooed him. 3 small black dots on his chest, permanent markers that would guide the machine, that would help save his life. They did save his life. Danny's been in remission for 7 years now, but those 3 dots? They mark him in ways I never anticipated. The bullying started 2 weeks into 8th grade. A boy named Tyler Brennan, loud, popular, the kind of kid who commands attention just by walking into a room, decided those marks made Danny an easy target. Freak. Cancer boy. Marked for death. Danny never told me the full extent of it. I pieced it together from concerned emails from teachers, from the way my son started wearing 3 layers of shirts even when Portland hit 85 degrees. The way he stopped looking at himself in mirrors when he brushed his teeth. The way his sketchbooks, which used to be full of superheroes and comic book characters, started filling with darker images, shadows and empty faces and bodies dissolving into smoke. I called the school 4 times. Each time, Vice Principal Henderson assured me they were handling it and keeping an eye on the situation. Each time, nothing changed. The educational system, I learned, moves at a glacial pace when your child is drowning. On a Thursday in late October, I picked Danny up early for a dentist appointment. The sky was that flat gray that Portland does so well, clouds hanging low enough to feel like you could reach up and touch them. As we walked across the parking lot toward my beat-up Honda, I heard Tyler's voice carry across the asphalt. Hey, Foster. Did the cancer give you those tattoos, or did you get them at the freak store? His friends laughed. That pack mentality that makes cowards feel brave. Danny's jaw tightened, but he kept walking. My hand found his shoulder, steadying him. Get in the car, honey. But Tyler wasn't done. He jogged over, blocking our path with the casual cruelty only teenage boys seem to master. What's wrong, cancer boy? Mommy coming to save you? I positioned myself between them. My purse slid down my arm, but I didn't adjust it. Every muscle in my body was focused on creating a barrier between this kid and my son. That's enough, Tyler. Or what? He smirked, and I saw his friends watching from across the parking lot, phones probably out, ready to record whatever happened next. You gonna sue me? My dad's a lawyer. He eats people like you for breakfast. And that's when I really looked at him. The resemblance was there, now that I knew to search for it. The same sharp jawline. The same steel gray eyes that could go from charming to calculating in half a second. The same smug certainty that the world would bend to accommodate him. Something cold settled in my chest. What's your father's name? The question came out quieter than I intended, but there was steel underneath it. Brandon Brennan. Partner at Brennan, Foster, and Associates. He said it like a threat, like his father's name was a weapon he could wield whenever he wanted. The ground shifted beneath my feet. Brandon Brennan. The man I'd tried to forget for 15 years. The man whose child stood in front of me now, mocking my son, our son, the brother he had no idea existed. The man who had no idea that the woman he'd destroyed all those years ago was standing 3 feet away, watching his legitimate son torture his illegitimate one. I kept my voice level, but my heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. Get away from my son, Tyler. Now, something in my tone must have registered because he stepped back, his bravado faltering just slightly. Maybe he saw something in my face, the barely controlled fury, the years of pain condensing into this single moment. We got in the car. Danny was silent the whole drive home, staring out the window like he could will himself invisible. His reflection in the glass looked small, defeated. I wanted to say something comforting. I wanted to tell him it would get better, that bullies eventually get what's coming to them, all the lies parents tell when they feel helpless. Instead, I drove in silence, my mind racing through the implications of what I'd just learned. Tyler Brennan. Brandon's son. Danny's half-brother. And neither of them knew. That night, after Danny had gone to bed, I sat in my kitchen with a glass of wine I didn't drink and a past I couldn't escape. 15 years ago, I was Rachel Green, a 22-year-old paralegal working at a mid-sized law firm in downtown Portland. Fresh out of community college, excited about my career, naive enough to believe that working hard and being smart would be enough. Brandon Brennan was a rising associate, 28 years old, with ambitions that matched his considerable charm. He had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room, like everything you said was fascinating and important. We started our affair 3 months after I was hired. IT was textbook, late nights at the office working on cases, lingering glances over case files, professional boundaries that dissolved with every passing week. He'd brush against me when reaching for a file. He'd offer to drive me home when it got late. He'd text me at midnight about work things that could have waited until morning. He told me his marriage was dying. He told me his wife didn't understand him, that they were only staying together for the kids. He told me all the lies men tell when they want something they shouldn't have, and I believed him. Because I was young and stupid and desperately in love with someone who saw me as temporary entertainment. The affair lasted 8 months. 8 months of stolen moments and secret hotel rooms and the constant anxiety of being discovered. 8 months of him promising we'd figure it out, that he'd leave his wife when the time was right, and then I got pregnant. When I told him, Brandon's mask slipped completely. The charming, considerate man disappeared, replaced by something cold and calculating. He offered me $5,000 for an abortion. When I said I needed time to think, he offered me $10,000 to disappear, take the money, leave Portland, never contact him again. When I told him I was keeping the baby, that I wanted him to be part of our child's life, everything changed. 2 days later, I was called into the managing partner's office and fired for performance issues that had never existed before. Within a week, I was blacklisted from every decent law firm in the city. His connections ran deep, and he used every single one to make sure I couldn't work in my chosen field. Did he also threaten me with a defamation lawsuit if I ever mentioned his name in connection with the pregnancy? His lawyers sent me a letter explaining in very clear terms that if I pursued child support or tried to claim he was the father, they would destroy me financially. His wife never knew. His career never suffered. His perfect life continued without a single consequence. And I spent the next 15 years rebuilding a life from the wreckage he'd left behind. I worked retail for 2 years while pregnant and then with a newborn. Eventually, I found a paralegal position at a smaller firm across town, low-paying but stable. I raised Danny alone, no child support, no help, no father in the picture at all. I never told Danny about his father. What was there to say? That his father was a man who'd chosen his reputation over his own child? That I'd been foolish enough to love someone incapable of loving anyone but himself, so I told Danny that his father wasn't in the picture, that it was just us, and that was enough. And most days, it was. But now, watching my son suffer at the hands of Brandon's legitimate child, something dark and patient began to unfold inside me. This wasn't about revenge. Not yet. This was about protection. This was about making sure the sins of the father didn't continue to poison my son's life. I made a decision that night, sitting at my kitchen table with cold wine and hot fury. I would reach out to Brandon directly, parent to parent, and demand he control his son. It was reasonable. It was rational. It was the right thing to do. I had no idea I was about to walk into a trap of my own making. The law offices of Brennan, Foster, and Associates occupied the 23rd floor of the Columbia Tower, all glass and polished chrome, and the kind of understated wealth that whispers rather than shouts. I'd been here before, 15 years ago, back when I was young enough to believe that love could conquer practical realities like power imbalances in married men. The lobby hadn't changed much. Same marble floors. Same expensive art on the walls, abstract pieces that probably cost more than my annual salary. Same hushed atmosphere that made you feel like you should speak in whispers. The receptionist, a polished woman in her 50s with perfectly styled gray hair, looked up as I approached. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I need to speak with Brandon Brennan." "It's about his son." Her expression shifted immediately from professional courtesy to genuine concern. "Is Tyler all right?" Interesting. Even the receptionist knew Tyler by name. "Must be nice to work in a place where your kids are celebrities by association. That depends on your definition of all right," I said. "Please tell Mr. Brennan that Rachel Foster is here. He'll want to see me." She hesitated, clearly trying to place me, then picked up the phone. I couldn't hear what she said, but 2 minutes later, she directed me down a hallway toward a corner office. The door was open. Brendan stood by the window, his back to me, looking out over the Willamette River. 15 years had been kind to him. His hair was graying at the temples in that distinguished way that made men look sophisticated rather than old. He'd put on some weight, but it suited him, gave him gravitas instead of looking sloppy. When he turned, recognition flickered across his face, followed immediately by something harder. Calculation: Rachel Green. My maiden name. He'd always refused to acknowledge that I'd changed it. "This is unexpected. It's Rachel Foster now." I stayed by the door, maintaining distance. And yes, I imagine seeing me as quite the surprise. He gestured to a leather chair across from his massive mahogany desk. "Please, sit." "You said this was about Tyler?" I sat, keeping my spine straight, my hands folded in my lap. Everything about my posture was designed to project calm control, even though my heart was hammering against my ribs. "Your son has been bullying mine. For the past 2 months, Tyler has been harassing my son Danny about his medical tattoos, radiation markers from when he was 7 and fighting leukemia." Brandon's expression didn't change. Not a flicker of concern or sympathy. "I'm sorry to hear your son was ill. But boys will be boys, Rachel. They tease each other. It's part of growing up. The dismissal in his voice made my blood boil. Calling a cancer survivor freak and marked for death isn't teasing, Brandon. It's cruelty. He leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers in that way powerful men do when they want you to know they're barely tolerating your presence. What exactly do you want from me? I want you to talk to your son. Explain that his behavior is unacceptable. Make him stop, and if I don't? The question hung between us, loaded with 15 years of unspoken history. I met his gaze without flinching. Then I'll pursue other avenues. The school board. Social media. Whatever it takes to protect my child. Something shifted in his expression. A coldness that made my skin prickle. That sounds very much like a threat, Rachel. It's a statement of intent. He stood, walking around his desk to perch on the edge, too close for comfort. Invading my space deliberately, using his physical presence to intimidate. Let me be clear about something. Tyler is a good kid. He's on the honor roll. He volunteers at the animal shelter. He's never been in serious trouble. If you start making accusations, especially public ones, you'll find yourself facing a very expensive defamation lawsuit. Is that what you do? I kept my voice steady. Threaten people into silence? I protect my family. He said it simply, as if it explained everything. As if his family was the only one that mattered. The words escaped before I could stop them. Danny is your family too. The silence that followed was absolute. Brandon stood frozen, his face cycling through emotions too quickly to read. Shock. Confusion. Rage. Then back to that calculated blankness he'd perfected over years of courtroom practice. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. What did you say? There was no going back now. The words were out there, hanging in the air between us like a grenade with the pin pulled. Danny is your son, Brandon. Your biological son. The pregnancy you paid me to terminate? I kept it. I kept him. And for 15 years, I've raised him alone while you played happy families with your legitimate children. He stumbled backward, actually stumbled, until his legs hit the desk. For a man who made his living staying composed under pressure, he looked completely undone. You're lying, am I? I pulled up my phone, opened the photo album, and held it up. Danny's school picture from this year. The resemblance was undeniable once you knew to look for it. The same steel gray eyes, the same sharp features softened slightly by my genetics, the same way his mouth curved when he was thinking. Brandon took the phone with shaking hands, staring at the image like it might rearrange itself into something more acceptable. This doesn't prove anything. A DNA test would, though. I took the phone back. But we both know you won't request one. Because deep down, you already know I'm telling the truth. You've always known there was a chance. That's why you panicked when I got pregnant. That's why you paid me to disappear. He returned to his chair, suddenly looking older. Smaller. The powerful attorney mask had cracked wide open. Why didn't you tell me? The audacity of the question actually made me laugh, a harsh, bitter sound that startled even me. You threatened to destroy me if I ever contacted you again, Brandon. You had me fired. You blacklisted me from every decent firm in this city. You made it crystal clear that your career and your marriage were more important than any responsibility you might have toward me or our child. So forgive me if I didn't rush to share custody arrangements. I would have done the right thing. The right thing? The anger I'd kept locked away for 15 years began to crack its cage. The right thing was not having an affair with your paralegal. The right thing was using protection. The right thing was standing by me when I needed you most. You did none of those things. So don't sit there and talk to me about what you would have done. He rubbed his face with both hands, and when he looked up, there was something calculating in his expression that made my stomach turn. What do you want, Rachel? Money? Is that what this is about? Of course. Of course, that's where his mind went. Everything could be solved with money. Every problem could be bought off. I want your son to stop tormenting mine. That's all. I'm not here for money or recognition or to blow up your perfect life. I'm here because Tyler is making Danny's life hell, and you're the only person who can make it stop. And if I do? If I talk to Tyler, make him back off, will you keep quiet about this? There it was. The transaction. Everything with Brandon always came down to transactions, to what he could buy or threaten or manipulate into submission. I've kept quiet for 15 years, I said. I'll keep quiet for 15 more. As long as Danny is left alone, he nodded slowly, like we were negotiating a business deal rather than discussing his own flesh and blood. I'll handle Tyler. But Rachel? He waited until I met his eyes. If you ever try to use this against me, if you ever approach my wife, or try to claim any rights to my resources, I will bury you. Do you understand? I have more money, more connections, and more power than I did 15 years ago. I will destroy you so thoroughly that you'll wish you'd taken my first offer. If I stood, smoothing my skirt with hands that wanted to shake but wouldn't. Perfectly. But Brandon? Remember that secrets have a way of surfacing. Especially when they have names and faces and medical tattoos that tell stories you'd rather keep hidden. I left before he could respond, my hands gripping my purse so tightly my knuckles went white. I made it to my car before the shaking started, sitting in the parking garage for a full 5 minutes before I could trust myself to drive. I'd done what I came to do. I'd protected my son. But I'd also opened a door I'd kept locked for 15 years, and I had no idea what might come through it. That night, Danny came home from school with something fragile and hopeful in his eyes. Tyler apologized to me today that I was making dinner spaghetti, Danny's favorite, my hands moving through familiar motions while my mind raced through implications. Did he? Yeah. In front of his friends and everything. He said he was wrong about the tattoos, that they're actually kind of tough. Danny ducked his head, embarrassed by his own pleasure at this small acceptance. His dad must have really talked to him. Guilt twisted in my stomach like a knife. I'm glad, honey, Mom? He hesitated, fidgeting with the edge of his shirt. Why do you think Tyler's dad took it so seriously? Most parents don't really care about bullying unless it's their kid getting bullied, because Tyler's dad is your father. Because his guilt is eating him alive. Because he's terrified I'll destroy the perfect life he's built on lies and cowardice. I don't know, Danny. Maybe he's just a decent person. The lie tasted like ash in my mouth. For 2 weeks, peace reigned. Tyler left Danny alone. My son started wearing single layers again, his sketches lightning, landscapes instead of shadows, superheroes instead of dissolving bodies. He even mentioned joining the art club, something he'd been too anxious to consider before. I let myself believe it was over. That confronting Brandon had been enough. That we could move forward and leave the past buried where it belonged. I should have known better. I should have known that secrets this big don't stay buried. They fester. They grow. They find their way to the surface no matter how deeply you try to bury them. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was at work. I'd eventually rebuilt my paralegal career at a smaller firm across town, nothing glamorous but stable, when an unknown number flashed across my screen. MS. Foster? A woman's voice, refined and cold as a blade. This is Jennifer Brennan. Brandon's wife. I believe we need to talk. My blood turned to ice water. Mrs. Brennan. I'm not sure what. Don't. The word cracked like a whip. Don't insult my intelligence. My husband has been acting strangely for 2 weeks. Distant. Guilty. Checking his phone constantly. So I did what any suspicious wife would do. I checked his phone records, his emails, his calendar. Your name appeared in his appointment book. So I did some research. I closed my office door, buying time to think, my heart hammering so hard I thought she might hear it through the phone. Mrs. Brennan, Ennifer. And before you attempt to deny whatever affair you're having with my husband, save your breath. I don't care about that. I've dealt with his affairs before. What I care about is leverage. The word sent a chill down my spine. I'm not having an affair with Brendan.no? She sounded almost disappointed. Then what were you doing in his office 2 weeks ago? According to his assistant, you spent 40 minutes behind closed doors. That's between your husband and me. Everything involving my husband is between him and me, Ms. Foster. We've been married for 23 years. I've stood by him through law school, through building his practice, through every late night and stressful case and woman who thought she was special. I've given him 2 children and the perfect life he always wanted. So when some paralegal from his past shows up out of nowhere, I pay attention. I sat down heavily. There was no good way out of this conversation. What do you want, Jennifer? The truth. All of it. And depending on what that truth is, perhaps we can help each other. Against every instinct, I found myself talking. Maybe it was exhaustion from carrying the secret alone for so long. Maybe it was the strange kinship I felt with this woman I'd never met, both of us manipulated by the same man. Maybe I was just tired of protecting someone who'd never protected me. I told her about the affair. About the pregnancy. About Brendan's threats and my silence and the son he'd never acknowledged. I told her about Tyler and Danny and the bullying that had brought it all crashing back. When I finished, the silence on the other end stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Jennifer? I'm here. Her voice had changed, gone flat and distant. And I'm not surprised. Not really. There were others before you, you know. Probably others after. Brandon has a pattern. He finds young women who are impressed by him, who need him in some way. He uses them until they become inconvenient, then he discards them. I've known for years. I just chose to look the other way. I'm sorry. The words felt inadequate but necessary. Don't be. You're not the villain in this story, Rachel. We both know who is. Him for being a predator, and me for enabling it. She took a shaky breath. I want to meet your son. What, Danny? I want to meet him. If he's Brandon's child, then he's Tyler and Emma's half-brother. They deserve to know each other. Panic clawed up my throat. Jennifer, that's not I can't. Danny doesn't even know who his father is. He'll be devastated. He'll hate me for lying all these years, maybe. But he'll hate you more if he finds out later that you kept him from knowing his siblings. Trust me on this, Rachel. I've raised children. The lies we tell to protect them end up hurting them more than the truth ever could. I need time to think about this. You have until tomorrow. 3 o'clock. The coffee shop on Hawthorne. Bring Danny, or I bring Brendan's entire firm down around his ears. I have documentation of affairs, financial improprieties, things that would end his career in a heartbeat. Your choice. She hung up before I could respond. I sat in my office, staring at my phone, understanding that I'd made a catastrophic miscalculation. I'd thought confronting Brandon would solve the bullying problem. Instead, I'd started a landslide that was going to bury us all. That night, I barely slept. How could I explain to Danny that his father, the man he'd never known, the absence he'd learned not to ask about, was suddenly real and complicated and coming with attachments I'd never prepared him for? How could I tell him that his bully was his brother? That the father who'd abandoned him had another family, a legitimate family, just across town? I couldn't. So I didn't. The next afternoon, I picked Danny up from school with a story about needing his help running errands. He climbed into the car with his backpack and his sketchbook, completely unaware that his entire world was about to detonate. We ended up at the coffee shop on Hawthorne, a place with exposed brick walls and local art hanging in mismatched frames. The smell of espresso and baked goods normally would have been comforting. Today, it made my stomach turn. Jennifer Brennan was already there, sitting in the back corner with 2 teenagers who could only be Tyler and Emma. Tyler looked uncomfortable, his usual swagger replaced with teenage awkwardness. He kept glancing at his mother like he was waiting for permission to leave. Emma was younger, maybe 12, with her mother's sharp features and intelligent brown eyes. She was drawing in a notebook, completely absorbed. Jennifer stood as we approached. She was beautiful in that polished way that comes from expensive maintenance, perfectly highlighted blonde hair, subtle makeup that looked natural but probably took an hour, clothes that cost more than my monthly rent. But there were cracks in the facade. Darkness under her eyes that concealer couldn't quite hide. A tightness around her mouth. Rachel. She extended her hand. And you must be Danny. My son looked at me, confusion written across his face. Mom? What's going on? Sit down, honey. Please. We sat. The five of us arranged around a table like chess pieces, waiting for someone to make the first move. Jennifer made it. Tyler, Emma, this is Danny Foster. He's your half-brother. The silence that followed was catastrophic. Tyler's face drained of all color. Emma's head snapped up from her notebook, her eyes going wide. And Danny looked at me with betrayal, so completely hurt. Mom? His voice cracked. What is she talking about? I wanted to run. I wanted to rewind 2 weeks and never set foot in Brendan's office. I wanted to undo 15 years of decisions that had led to this moment. Instead, I took my son's hand. Danny, I need you to listen to me. Your father, Brendan Brennan, is Tyler's father too. I didn't tell you because I wanted to protect you from a man who wasn't capable of being what you deserved. You lied to me. Not a question. An accusation. Yes. And I'm sorry. Tyler erupted, his voice loud enough that other customers turned to look. This is insane. Mom, you can't actually believe this. Jennifer turned to her son with unexpected gentleness. I had a DNA test run, sweetheart. Using a sample from your father's toothbrush and hair from the Foster house that I obtained. She looked at me apologetically. I broke into your house yesterday while you were at work. I needed to be certain. The violation should have angered me. Instead, I felt oddly grateful for her thoroughness. At least now there was no ambiguity. The results came back this morning, Jennifer continued. Danny is definitely Brendan's biological son. Which makes him your brother. Emma spoke for the first time, her voice small and scared. Where's Dad? Your father, Jennifer said with careful emphasis, doesn't know we're here. And he's not going to know until I decide he needs to. This is between us now. Danny pulled his hand away from mine, standing abruptly. His chair scraped against the floor. I need air. He was out the door before I could stop him. I started to follow, but Emma beat me to it. Let me, she said. He probably doesn't want to talk to you right now. She was right. Through the coffee shop window, I watched Emma approach Danny on the sidewalk. She kept a respectful distance, not crowding him. They stood in awkward silence for a moment before she said something that made him laugh, a short, bitter sound, but a laugh nonetheless. Inside, Tyler was staring at the table, his face unreadable. I bullied him. My own brother. You didn't know, Jennifer said. Does that matter? He looked up, and I saw genuine remorse in his eyes. I was cruel to him. Because of his tattoos. Because he was different. And the whole time, he was family. Jennifer finished. She turned to me, her expression hard. Rachel, I know this isn't what you wanted. But it's where we are. And I believe, that we can make something good come from this disaster. How? The question came out harsh, raw. How do we make this good, Jennifer? Your husband destroyed my life 15 years ago. He abandoned his own child. He threatened me into silence. And now you want us to what? Play happy families? No. She met my eyes steadily. I want to destroy him. The words hung in the air, shocking in their calm delivery. Tyler's head snapped up. Mom, what are you talking about? Jennifer ignored him, keeping her focus on me. I want Brendan to pay for every lie, every betrayal, every woman he's used and discarded. I want him to lose everything he's built on our backs, yours, mine, probably dozens of others we don't even know about. And I think you want that too. She was right. Somewhere in the past 2 weeks, beneath the worry for Danny and the fear of exposure, a cold rage had been building. Brandon had taken so much from me. My career. My trust. 15 years of my son's life that he could have been part of. What did you have in mind? Jennifer smiled, and it was terrible and beautiful all at once. First, we document everything, Jennifer said, her voice steady and businesslike. Your affair, the pregnancy, the threats, the firing. Everything. Then we go to the Oregon State Bar with an ethics complaint. Threatening a pregnant subordinate, using firm resources to blacklist her, that's grounds for disbarment. They might not believe me after 15 years, I said, they will when I corroborate it. When I testify that I knew about other affairs, other women he used his position to silence. When I bring forward his financial records showing payments to women who mysteriously left the firm. When I make it impossible for them to ignore the pattern. Tyler was watching his mother with a mixture of awe and horror. You're going to divorce him. I should have divorced him years ago, sweetheart. I stayed because I thought it was better for you and Emma. But I see now that teaching my children that this kind of behavior is acceptable is worse than any divorce could be. Outside, Danny and Emma were still talking. Whatever she was saying seemed to be helping. His shoulders had relaxed slightly, and he'd stopped clenching his fists. There's something else, Jennifer said quietly. Brandon has been embezzling from the firm. Small amounts over several years, routing it through shell accounts. I have documentation. I was saving it for when I needed leverage in the divorce, but this is better. I stared at her. You've been planning this for 3 years. Ever since I found emails between him and his previous affair. But I needed something big enough to justify the explosion. You gave me that, Rachel. You and Danny, you're the catalyst I've been waiting for. It should have felt wrong, conspiring to destroy someone's life. But Brandon had never hesitated to destroy mine. And every day I'd spent as a single mother, struggling to make ends meet while he built his empire on lies, had earned me this moment. I'm in, I said. What do you need from me? We spent the next hour planning. Jennifer had files upon files, financial records, emails, phone logs, testimony from other women she'd tracked down over the years. She'd been building a case like a prosecutor preparing for trial, methodical and thorough. There's a woman named Patricia who worked at the firm 5 years ago, Jennifer explained. Brandon had an affair with her too. When she got pregnant, he paid for the abortion and then had her transferred to the Seattle office. I found her on LinkedIn last year. She's willing to testify, and there's Melissa, she continued. Summer associate 3 years ago. He harassed her so badly she quit law altogether. She's now a teacher in Beaverton. She'll testify too. Tyler was silent through all of this, processing the fact that his father wasn't the man he believed him to be. When Danny and Emma came back inside, they were talking quietly, almost comfortable with each other. Emma had a gift for it, I realized, a lightness that cut through tension, made people feel at ease. Danny sat next to me but didn't look at me directly. Emma says you were trying to protect me. I was. I am. She also says her dad is, well, she says he deserves whatever's coming to him. I glanced at Emma, who shrugged unapologetically. It's true. I love my dad, but I'm not blind. He's always put himself first. Always. Danny, I said carefully, I know you're angry with me. You have every right to be. But I need you to understand that everything I did, every decision I made, was about keeping you safe. Your father made it very clear 15 years ago that he didn't want you. I wasn't going to force you into a relationship with someone who saw you as a mistake, but you didn't give me a choice. His voice was thick with unshed tears. You decided for me. And now I find out I have siblings I never knew about, a whole other family. How am I supposed to deal with that? Jennifer spoke gently. Danny, I know this is overwhelming. But I want you to know that you're welcome in Tyler and Emma's lives. In my life. What Brendan did to your mother was unforgivable. But you're not responsible for his sins. And neither are my children. Tyler, who'd been silent through most of this, finally spoke. I'm sorry. For everything I said. For how I treated you. I was wrong. Danny looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was acknowledgement. It was a beginning. Over the next 3 weeks, Jennifer and I became unlikely allies. She filed for divorce, citing adultery and emotional abuse. Simultaneously, we filed ethics complaints with the Oregon State Bar, accompanied by sworn statements from me and 3 other women Brendan had harassed over the years, women Jennifer had painstakingly tracked down and convinced to come forward. The embezzlement evidence went to the managing partners of Brennan, Foster, and Associates. Brendan was suspended pending investigation. His perfect world crumbled faster than I'd thought possible till he called me once, his voice raw with rage. You're destroying me, Rachel. Everything I've built now, Brendan. I'm just finally telling the truth. You destroyed yourself 15 years ago. You destroyed yourself every time you used your position to prey on someone vulnerable. This is just consequence finally catching up. I'll fight this. I'll fight you. You'll never work in this city again. You already tried that. It didn't stick. I'm still here. I'm still standing. And now I'm not alone. He hung up without another word. The hearing with the Bar Association took place 6 weeks after that coffee shop meeting. Jennifer and I testified about Brendan's abuse of power, his pattern of preying on subordinates, his use of firm resources to silence women. Patricia testified about her abortion and forced transfer. Melissa testified about harassment so severe she'd left the legal profession entirely. The other women told their stories too. Each one a variation on the same theme, Brendan using his charm and position to manipulate, then using his power to destroy anyone who threatened to expose him. The evidence was overwhelming. Brendan Brennan was disbarred, his name was removed from the firm. Jennifer was awarded primary custody of Tyler and Emma, along with a significant portion of their assets. The embezzlement charges resulted in criminal prosecution. He eventually pled guilty to avoid trial and received 3 years in prison. Everything he'd built over decades vanished in months. I should have felt vindicated. Triumphant. Instead, I mostly felt tired. Danny struggled with all of it. Learning about his father's crimes. Developing a relationship with Tyler and Emma. Processing 15 years of absence and lies. We started therapy, both individually and together. It helped, slowly. Dr. Martinez, our therapist, had this way of cutting through the noise. Danny, she said during one session, your anger at your mother is valid. She made decisions for you that affected your entire life. But I want you to consider something. She made those decisions when she was 22 years old, alone, and facing threats from a man with significant power. She did the best she could with the information and resources she had, but she kept lying, Danny said. Even after I was old enough to understand, yes. And that's something you both need to work through. But Rachel, I want you to hear this too. You can't protect Danny from pain by hiding the truth. The truth always comes out. Always. And when it does, the lies hurt more than the original pain ever would have. Those words stayed with me. Jennifer became an unexpected friend. We had coffee once a week, 2 women who'd survived the same predator, finding solidarity in shared experience. She was kinder than I'd expected, sharper than Brendan had ever given her credit for. Do you regret it? She asked me once, 6 months after everything had exploded. Telling the truth? Destroying him? I thought about Danny, who was laughing with Emma in the next room, his sketchbook forgotten on the table. I thought about Tyler, who genuinely befriended his half-brother, protective in ways that suggested real affection. I thought about Jennifer, who'd found her backbone and her power. No, I said honestly. I regret not doing it sooner. Brendan was released from prison after 18 months for good behavior. He moved to Seattle, his reputation destroyed, his career over. He never reached out to Danny. Never apologized. Never acknowledged the wreckage he'd left behind. Some men never learn. Some men only understand loss when it's their own. If you're still watching, drop a comment right now. Tell me, would you have forgiven Brandon if he'd apologized? Or are some betrayals too deep to forgive? I read every single comment, and your voice matters here. Danny is 16 now. He still has his tattoos, those 3 small black dots that mark him as a survivor. But they don't define him anymore. He's captain of the art club. He has friends, real ones who value him for who he is. He has siblings who love him. Tyler and Emma spend alternate weekends with us. Jennifer and I co-parent in the strangest, most functional blended family I could have imagined. We celebrate holidays together. We show up for each other's children's school events. We've built something solid from Brandon's rubble. Last Tuesday night, we all had dinner together, Jennifer, Tyler, Emma, Danny, and me. We made tacos, and Tyler told a terrible joke that had Emma laughing so hard she snorted soda out of her nose. Danny sketched the moment in his notebook, capturing Emma's joy and Tyler's proud grin. Later, when everyone had gone home, Danny showed me the sketch. What do you think? He asked. I looked at the drawing. 5 people around a table, overlapping and connected, chaotic but warm. I think it's perfect, I said, and for the first time in 16 years, I meant it. Sometimes Danny asks about his father. I tell him the truth, all of it. The good parts that made me fall in love. The bad parts that made me run. The criminal parts that put him in prison. I don't shield him anymore. He's old enough to understand that people are complicated, that parents are human, that love and damage often share the same space. Do you think he ever thinks about me? Danny asked once. I don't know, honey. Maybe. But whether he does or doesn't, that's about him, not about you. You are not defined by his absence. You're defined by the people who chose to show up for you. He thought about that for a while. Tyler showed up, he said finally. Emma showed up. Jennifer showed up. Even though they didn't have to, yes, they did, and you showed up. Even when it was hard. Even when I was angry. Always, baby. Always. Last week, Danny came home with a letter. It was from Brandon. The return address was Seattle. Danny held it in his hands for a long time, just staring at it. Do you want to read it? I asked. I don't know. Part of me wants to know what he has to say. Part of me doesn't care. Whatever you decide, I support you. He ended up opening it. The letter was short, half a page, maybe. Brandon apologized for not being there. He said he'd made mistakes. He said he hoped Danny was doing well. It was hollow. Generic. The kind of apology someone writes because they think they should, not because they mean it. Danny read it twice, then folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. Maybe I'll respond someday, he said. But not today. Today, I have art club, and then Emma wants to show me this new game she's obsessed with, and Tyler said he'd help me with my college essay. He looked at me, and in his eyes, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Peace. I'm okay, Mom. We're okay. And we were. I learned something through all of this. Silence protects abusers. Truth empowers survivors. For 15 years, I stayed quiet because I was afraid of Brandon's power, afraid of his threats, afraid of what the truth would do to Danny. But the truth didn't destroy us. It freed us. Jennifer and I talk about this sometimes, late at night when the kids are asleep and we're drinking wine on her back porch. How many other women are out there, she wonders. How many other Rachels who stayed quiet because they were threatened? How many other children who don't know their fathers because men like Brandon can just walk away? Too many, I say. That's why I'm telling this story now. Not for revenge, that part's done. But for every woman who's been told to stay quiet. For every single mother raising a child alone while the father lives consequence-free. For every person who thinks the powerful are untouchable. They're not. Truth is more powerful than money. Alliance is more powerful than intimidation. And sometimes, justice takes 15 years, but it still comes. 3 months ago, I got a message on LinkedIn. It was from a woman named Carla, a former paralegal at another firm where Brendan had worked before. Brennan, Foster, and Associates. I saw the news about Brennan, she wrote. I need to tell you what he did to me in 1998. I've been carrying this for 27 years. Can we talk? I called her that night. Her story was heartbreakingly familiar: affair, pregnancy, threats, forced resignation. She'd had the abortion Brendan demanded, and it had haunted her ever since. I thought I was the only one, she said through tears. I thought it was my fault somehow. That I'd led him on or been unprofessional or... Stop, I said gently. None of this was your fault. None of it. He was the one with power. He was the predator. We talked for 2 hours. When we hung up, she said something that stuck with me. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up. You gave me permission to finally stop being ashamed. That's when I understood. This story isn't just mine. It's ours, mine, Jennifer's, Patricia's, Melissa's, Carla's, and probably dozens more we'll never know about. And every time one of us speaks up, we give permission for others to do the same. Before you go, I need you to do something for me. If Rachel's story moved you, if you've ever fought for justice against impossible odds, or if you believe truth always finds its way, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Voice of Auntie Katie for more stories of courage, revenge, and redemption. And in the comments, tell me, what would you have done in Rachel's position? Would you have stayed silent or burned it all down? Would you have forgiven Tyler for bullying Danny? Would you have trusted Jennifer's plan? Your story matters. Your voice matters. And I promise you, I read every single comment. Danny turned 17 last month. We threw a party at Jennifer's house, our blended, chosen family all gathered together. Tyler made a playlist that was somehow both terrible and perfect. Emma baked a cake that collapsed in the middle but tasted amazing. Jennifer gave a toast that had everyone crying. And Danny? Danny stood in the middle of all this love, messy, complicated, chosen love, and smiled. Later, when the party was winding down, he pulled me aside. Mom, I need to tell you something. My heart clenched. After everything we'd been through, I still feared bad news. What is it, honey? I forgive you. For not telling me about my father. I understand now why you made that choice. And I'm grateful, for you, for this family we've built, for all of it. I hugged him tight, tears streaming down my face. I love you, Danny. So much. I love you too, Mom. And thank you. For fighting for me. For protecting me. For never giving up. That's the end of my story, but it's also the beginning of speaking truth, of building chosen families, of refusing to let powerful men escape consequence. My name is Rachel Foster. I'm 39 years old. I'm a paralegal, a mother, a survivor, and a fighter. And if you're out there carrying a secret because someone powerful told you to stay quiet, I'm telling you now, speak. Speak loudly. Speak truthfully. Speak without shame, because your silence protects them. But your voice? Your voice can change everything. One more thing before you go. If this story helped you in any way, if it gave you courage or validation or just made you feel less alone, please share it. Send it to someone who needs to hear it. Post it on your social media. Let this story reach the people who need it most. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being part of this community where truth matters and voices are heard. I'm Auntie Katie, and I'll see you in the next story. Until then, stay strong, stay truthful, and never let anyone silence you. God bless you all.